Okay, hello and good day to everyone. That is currently tuning in here at the Sphere Rocket Podcast Network. Once again, I'm going to be the host for today's episode. My name is Dwayne, and today we got a show for you because right now our guest is a real estate whiz from South Florida with us. He's got a double major from Florida State in accounting and finance, and is now leading a team that sells over 200 homes a year. His team was number 8 team in Florida in terms of transactions and number 27 by sales volume in 2022. Impressive, right? Well, growing up with 2 real estate attorney parents in Parkland and Coral Springs, he knows the area like the back of his hand. So he's got the inside scoop on all the best neighborhoods and schools. And I guess without further ado, let's introduce the man himself. So we got Andy Mandel. How are you doing today? And welcome to the show.
Awesome intro. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. And how are you feeling right now?
We're great. We're selling houses and living the dream.
Of course. And I love your background. Monopoly. I would always recognize that to Go Signal and electric bills. Is that it?
Something like that. No, that's my video recording studio behind me. I got the green screen above that, so we pull it down. We make all of our content and do all that right here in the office.
Okay, so you got some content creation going on alongside your real estate business. But before we get to that, I guess my first question for you is, what do you think is the best comfort food that you would eat, let's say after a successful week of sales and real estate? What is something that you would always go home to eat at?
If I got to pick one food, if you're putting me to the electric chair tomorrow, it's chicken parm is my last meal for sure.
Chicken parm. Is chicken parmesan? Sorry. Oh yeah, I get that. And pretty much that's interesting. Do you have by any chance some European kind of descent, or are you all American?
Obviously born and raised here, but yeah, my family is from Eastern Europe. If you go back, couple generations there.
Because that was the first time I heard from someone from America saying chicken parm as their favorite. Or normally it's like barbecue and something like that. So I guess
that's my go-to comfort food.
It's in your blood, I guess. And I guess carrying on with the podcast itself. So how did you got into real estate in the first place?
Yeah, so both of my parents are real estate attorneys, as you had kind of mentioned there. So I grew up tangentially in the business, and it's kind of in my blood. When I graduated college, I applied to law school. I got in, and I worked for my parents for a little bit, just seeing did I want to go to law school and put myself through 3 years of what most people would tell you is hell. And I just didn't really love that part of the business, but I did like the real estate business in general. So I got my license, and I figured I would try it out. I never really saw myself doing this. I was working for my parents, and when I decided not to go to law school, I was applying for other jobs, and I figured I'd just get my license, in the meantime, if I sold a house, great, while I was applying for other things. And then once I started selling a house or two, I was like, I kind of really like this and I'm good at it. And so we just kind of took it from there. And then now it's 11 years later, we got a big team, and then it's really taken off.
So there was that spark, you've been doing, I guess, growing up with your parents, as you mentioned, your mind was kind of set up like being attorney in law school and everything. And, it took you that, you just wanting to try out. Is that for selling house in real estate? Or
was it I was working for them. And I was just everything growing up at the dinner table. And I would hear my parents talk about whatever issues the files had. And it was just always seemed like an interesting business because every deal is a little bit different. So I always had some sort of an eye for it, but never really saw myself being like a real estate agent. Just kind of fell into it while I was looking for other real jobs. And like I said, it's really evolved on itself and really taken off.
See, that is quite the transition, I would say, because I get in retrospect, when I guess if you're going to ask some kids what they want to be when they grow up, it's going to be pilots, doctors, engineers, or lawyers. I don't think any kid, like any normal kid, would say like real estate agent from the get-go. So
yeah, it was nowhere near the top of my list, but things have worked out pretty well so far. So I'm very happy with it.
Exactly. I guess you have, I guess that kind of salesperson kind of inside of you, because I guess sales in general, especially in real estate, it's not going to be for everyone. You need to have that kind of heart of a salesperson to go out there every day talking to people, which makes someone, a great, I guess, marketer. Forgot the term for it, but just, I guess, a salesperson in general. So
it definitely takes a certain type of personality for sure. I call myself an introverted extrovert. I can talk to anyone. I don't necessarily love going out there and being the guy who's working the room and making cold calls and stuff like that. But I can talk to a wall if I needed to, and Turned myself into a very good marketer. I had to learn that, but the business is very interesting, and it's worked out so far for me, who worked really hard at it.
Yeah, 11 years. It takes more than just, needing the money. If you're going to go for a business for like 11 years, you must have the passion, and you definitely need to enjoy what you're doing.
Definitely.
So in terms of that, how were you able to stay for like 11 years in such a cutthroat kind of profession like real estate?
I was fortunate when I graduated college. I had moved back in with my parents. They were charging me a small amount of rent, and they were saying, you're going to pay us a little bit until you can save up enough to move out. But I got a real estate coach within my first 6 months in the business. My first couple months, I was really struggling, not knowing where to start. I signed up for a real estate coaching program, and immediately it was able to give me, a step-by-step guide as to what to do. And I was learning from someone who had been there before. So I wasn't just trying to reinvent the wheel and figure it out on my own. And I credit that, a lot to helping me get started. And then it's just hard work and dedication and sticking to the plan. And then that's one of the things that I think I've excelled at, is you create a plan and you stick to that plan, and, following a plan and a proven plan from people who have been there before, I think is really the key, having a good mentor and someone who can show you the ropes.
Definitely a mentor, because it saves you the trial and error that you usually takes, which just costs, it's going to cost you time and money as well. So yeah, learning from them as well helps you out. And I guess part of growing your business is definitely growing your team. As you mentioned, you got one of the top teams in your state. So how were you able to scale up your business, including your team? What's your strategy in that?
It starts with having like really clear systems and procedures. So if you're doing anything more than once in this business, I think you need to have a system around it. So I put together a system of, hey, when this kind of lead comes in, we follow up doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When we do this, here's our checklist. Every time we list a property, here's all the things we do. Every time we're working with a buyer, here are all the things we do. Once we're under contract, et cetera. So I just have a defined checklist of everything. And that's really helped us be systematic with things. You don't forget, I forgot to do this one time. It's just, you can't mess it up if there's a defined system with rules on everything you do in your business.
So it's all about, establishing that kind of process. It's not like, everything goes. So they don't need to always ask you the same kind of questions, because you already have this list of things, the checklist that they can refer to every time they got stuck in a certain situation. Exactly. And growing your business as well. So can you tell us what would be your most effective strategy in terms of like marketing your business? Is it more of like you doing cold calls, going out there, a mixture of both, or anything that you're doing?
So I'm not a cold call person. Like I said, I can talk, but I just don't love making cold calls. It's not really my thing. When I got in the business, I was 21 years old. I didn't really have a big sphere of people who were throwing deals my way. Even my parents, as real estate attorneys, they didn't have a lot of stuff they were just giving me. So if I wasn't going to make cold calls, I'm in South Florida. It's really hot and humid. I'm not going to door knock and do those things here and show up to your door all sweaty. So for me, the best way that I learned how to do it was for online leads. So I really became somewhat of an expert on online leads and conversion. And so I had the leads coming into me that way. Yeah, I had to pay for them, but I built systems around follow-up and how to work these online leads. So it just became really good at follow-up, using a CRM and working the online leads. And that's still to this day some of our best sources of business, where most of our business comes from. It's a lot of online leads.
Sticking back to the process that you were doing, I'm assuming you've been doing that from the very beginning, or is it like kind of like a new process that you developed not so long ago?
No, like I said, I started buying online leads right when I got into the business, about 6 months in. So this was 2014. I got my license in 2013. So in the beginning of 2014, I started working online leads, and it's just been an evolving process as the leads change, and the calls to action that are on whatever websites the leads are coming on. As those change, you got to change your messaging to them. But this is just how I grew my business. And online leads aren't right for everyone. There's a lot of work and follow up and things like that involved. But you either have sweat equity or check equity. So you can go out there and you can make the cold calls, or you can literally sweat if you're in South Florida and door knock and things like that. Or I spent a little bit of money, and then the budget has evolved and grown since then. But we figured we'd buy the leads, and I personally preferred to have, I guess, what I considered warmer leads coming, where they're clicking on a button saying, I want the agent to call me, and I want to speak to an agent about this. And so that's really worked for us.
It it makes it sound so simple, you know. It's really straight to the point. If you want to talk to someone, just press a button. And you know what? I know you've gotten quite you've grown your business quite big right now, but I'm sure it's not all smooth sailing, especially when you got started. You had those, advantages having a coach and all, but if you're gonna look back when you're getting started in real estate, what do you think were the biggest hurdles that you need to pass in order for you to scale up, to turn your business from 1 to 10 back then?
I think, like I said, having a system and a CRM where like all the leads come into your database and having a clearly defined system of, hey, I'm going to call these leads first, then these leads next based on whatever criteria. So you call your new leads first, then you call the ones you called yesterday, then you couldn't get in contact with, and then you're calling the people who, are actively on your website. So having a system like that, and realistically, it's just learning what to say, learning the objection handlers and practicing them, saying them out loud. So you don't want to practice on your clients. So I distinctly remember, 2013, 2014, still when I was living in my parents' house at the time, having like the Tom Ferry scripts and objection handlers book and standing in front of the mirror and, saying the scripts and saying the objection handlers out loud. Because it's one thing to read it and to know it, but it's another thing to get it off your tongue. So, it's just practicing, out loud, doing role play, just not practicing on your clients. And that was, really beneficial to me to really learn and master how to articulate what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. I guess rejections are one of the bitter things that we have in selling anything, because people can just be disheartened by rejections, but it's part of the process, as you mentioned. If you can't like perfectly sell everything to anyone, basically, but
if you're scared of rejection, sales might not be the right business for you, but it can be lucrative, and it's a great business if you can get over that mental hurdle of rejection is going to happen.
Definitely. And you talk about different kind of strategies. There's no one strategy that will work for every kind of agents. Like for you, I guess cold calling is not for you, as you mentioned, but for some it will work, and for you it's like more on online leads and stuff like that. And if you would give an advice to, let's say, someone who's starting out as in real estate, he's still figuring things out, what he would do, what processes he or she should follow, what would you advise that guy?
I'm very big into, everything needs to go into a CRM, to your central database. So I'm a huge CRM guy. And my goal has always been to be omnipresent. So if I can get all these leads from whatever sources they're coming from into our CRM, not only are I then, calling them, texting them, emailing them, but I can use that data. I can create like a custom audience on Facebook and social media, and we can retarget them with videos and the content that we're creating. So it's not just one thing in this business, I think, that makes anyone successful. It's doing all the little things. You just got to do all the things, and you have to do them consistently. And then you got to find a way to systemize that, because you can only be in one place as an agent at one time. You can't spin 52 plates. So it's how do you leverage yourself, whether that's with systems or a CRM or virtual assistants. You got to have some sort of way to leverage yourself to make sure all those things can get done consistently.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because I'm sure that you're not able to handle all of those processes in CRM and everything. So tell me about your team. And you've mentioned about using a virtual assistant. How does that play out?
So, if I could go back, my first hire was just like a marketing assistant. But I think if I could go back, I would have my first hire be a transaction coordinator. So once you get something under contract, there's a lot of, paperwork and things like that are involved in, from contract to close, and passing that off to someone who knows what they're doing so you can focus on the money-making activities, talking to more buyers and sellers, I think is really, the most important part of this business. And then, like I had mentioned before, you have a checklist of all the things you do for every single aspect of the transaction, or all the marketing things in your marketing plan. You can then hire a virtual assistant to implement those kind of things for you. So if you see anything on my social media channels, there's a very high likelihood I didn't post it there. So like I'm creating the content, but I have a marketing assistant who does all of our social media. She creates our just listed, just sold. She creates all of our blog posts and things like that. And then I have a video editor who works part-time for us. So he'll take all the content that I'm making, he'll chop it up and edit it and do all that. And then it's up to my marketing assistant to, put it everywhere, put it on our website, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, make the blog out of it, do all that. And then she handles all the other marketing activities that we're doing as well for direct mail and, any other administrative things that I need to get done. I have someone who can handle that for me, so I could focus on what I'm good at, which is talking to more buyers and sellers.
That is so convenient. Like, imagine how much time that frees up in your schedule. If you're doing all those blog posts, you need to edit the videos, and you can rush them, but the quality would definitely be, I guess, be less compared to having someone who's going to go to it like full time or like the entire time of their shift.
Or it's just not consistent. And I think the key with any business is consistency. Like I said, it's not doing one thing, it's doing all the things and doing it consistently. So having a system around it, it's in your calendar. And if you as the agent can't be the one who does it, you have to have someone on your team to be able to do it. So we've found virtual assistants to be a great way to leverage ourselves and do the things that aren't necessarily the highest and best use of my time, but they need to get done consistently and they need to get done well. And VAs have been a great resource for us.
Yes, and what's great about VAs is because they're they cost a lot less compared to hiring someone locally. That means that you'll be able to, I guess, in terms of like the costs and the efficiency, the profit that you get is a lot more. But it would take some time before you can get them used to the system or your processes. And in your experience, how long did it took for them to to adapt to the kind of process that you have in your business?
When you hire anyone, whether they're someone who's sitting in your office or they're a virtual assistant, there's going to be a training and onboarding process. You can't expect anyone, whether it's virtual or in person, to just come in and know exactly what you want to do, exactly how you want to do it, and know the way that you would speak so they can write things the way that you would speak. There's a learning process for everyone. But for me, like I said, it's very systems oriented. I put together a list of all the things that I wanted my VA to do on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. And I created videos around it. So I literally would screen record myself, do it. Hey, this is what I want to do. You go here, you click this, you do this, you download this. And, I have a video for every single thing that I want that VA to do. And it's, saved in my library. So every single month when it's on the calendar for whatever task it is to do, there's a link in the, we use Google for our Google Calendar. There's a link to the video in the thing on the calendar. So if they ever forget, how to do something or they ever need to reference it, they click that, they watch the video. It's 2 minutes. Okay, great. Here's my refresher. And they can go do it. And then if I ever needed to, God forbid, replace one of my assistants, the content's already there. If I change how we do things, you just quickly replace the video, you make a new one, and it's there. So it's almost a set it and forget it strategy, but it does take a little bit of time up front to do something like that.
That definitely is an amazing strategy because, pretty much most virtual assistants or any local employees, I guess, that's how they go around. They're going to keep asking, hey, how do you do this? How do I do that? But you have it all in a sheet, the links, you even have a video for it. So I guess that eliminates a lot of time of going back and forth and doing what to do. So yeah, that's, I guess, one of the strategies in terms of like getting virtual assistants or anyone in terms of getting accustomed to your business.
Yeah. And having anyone, training is really, really important. So you just have to have an in-depth training.
And if I may ask, what were your parameters when you were choosing a virtual assistant and, being a client of Sphere Rocket? How did Sphere Rocket, was able to help you in terms of like filtering out to get you the best client, the best VA for you?
Yeah. So I was introduced to Sphere Rocket from someone else, and I was going back and forth between hiring another in-house person or using a virtual assistant, and then finding the virtual assistant myself or going through a company called like Sphere Rocket. So even with the, whatever the upfront fee is, I'm able to pay a fair, salary and wage to the person. It's over the long term, it makes way more sense to go through a company like Sphere Rocket than another company that is charging you a lot more per hour, but the VA only ends up getting a very small amount. So now I'm able to pay the VA directly the same amount and cut out the extra amount that's going to the management company. But Sphere Rocket was great. They took the information of what I was looking for. So I said, I want someone who's able to do all our social media. And I created like a rough bullet point of the things that I wanted to do. They helped create a more detailed job description, and they went out to their network of potential VAs looking for the best people to match that criteria in the budget that I was looking to pay for a salary. And they set up all the interviews. So I had, I think, 3 or 4 people come in and say, here's who I am. Here's the other people who I've worked for before. Here's my list of things that I've done. And I could speak to them. I could, have a face-to-face conversation just like this over Zoom to meet them. And I got to choose who I thought was the best person for me based on, whatever my criteria were. And they just facilitated it. It was a couple pieces of paper to DocuSign. It was a really easy process.
It's smooth and fast and eliminates a lot of unnecessary processes. I've interviewed VAs as well. That's also what they love about, being hired by Sphere Rocket is the cost. Other agencies would take a good chunk of their salary like every month in the long term, and with Sphere Rocket, you're able to pay directly your your VA, and they get to get paid exactly what they work for. And
Exactly.
that's definitely helps out their morale in terms of working. And I guess going back to your business, Andrew. So how can people see all of your listings and your products and services if you have any?
Yeah, you can go to floridahomefinder.com. That's our buyer-focused website where you can see all of our listings and all the homes for sale in our area. And if you're a potential seller and you want to see more seller-focused stuff, it's soldbymandelteam.com. And all of our stuff is there. All our contact info is there. Our Instagram, Facebook handles, all that stuff. It's all right there.
Okay, so you can be reached by any of your socials as well on Facebook.
Call,
or
text,
Instagram.
email, smoke signal, carrier pigeon, DM, however you want to reach me. We're there to communicate however you want.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And I guess one of my last questions for you, because we've talked about you going into business for more than a decade, I believe. So that being said, it must be more than just getting more and more money and cash flow to yourself. So what makes you do what you do right now beyond the money?
I don't know what I would do if I woke up and didn't work. I can't really see myself being someone who retires. So having something to do is part of it. I like that I'm building my own business. It's my own reputation, and I'm able to build something for myself. And now that I've evolved into a team, I love helping buyers and sellers, with what is typically one of the most challenging and stressful times of their life. So there's a satisfaction in that. But now I get extra satisfaction in helping other agents learn how to replicate what we do, use our systems to grow their own business so they can help more buyers and sellers. So I just get a really good satisfaction out of helping not just the end consumer, but now a team full of agents, make more money so they can provide for their family in a way that they weren't able to before they were on our team with everything that we're offering.
Okay, so basically helping other people, I guess helping nurture the next generation of, real estate agents I guess that definitely helps, because I guess for some other agents, that's one of the reasons why they kind of don't ask help from other agents, because they probably might think that they might be competitors. Is that an issue for you back then? Where, thinking that, oh, I can sell this. Why should I help someone else?
I try to come from a mindset of abundance, and that's part of just who I am. So the more you give back, the more you put out, it comes back around. So we come from a mindset of abundance, and then part of, not to get into different brokerages or have that be the conversation, but part of the brokerage that we're with, everyone shares what they're doing, because if I help you grow, we're incentivized to do that. And it's just, I want to see other people grow. So we help each other in our little circle here at our company. And it's been a good thing for everyone.
Yes, I guess that's the winning and the right kind of mindset in any business. It's not about taking others' profits, but sharing it, because there's abundance. I guess a lot of homes to sell in just your place alone in the entirety of the United States.
There's more than enough business to go around, and if you just do the right thing and you help others, it'll come back to you tenfold.
Definitely. And before we end this, Andy, maybe you wanted to give a shout out to any of the people you work with and potential clients that you work with before we end this.
I guess say thanks to my whole team for being as great as you are, to my virtual assistants, Jonathan and B. You guys are awesome. If you ever watch this, keep up the good work. I love you guys. Couldn't do what I do without you. And thanks to Sphere Rocket for putting us in touch.
It's amazing to have you as well, and client. And who knows, maybe your virtual assistants could be the next ones that I'll be interviewing here at the Sphere Rocket Podcast Network, if they're not too busy. But regardless, it's been an amazing podcast episode with you, Andy, and hopefully, you'll have an amazing business, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and that is our episode for today at the Sphere Rocket Podcast Network. Hopefully, you've learned a lot from today's episode, and we'll see you again in the next one. Goodbye, everyone. Feeling overwhelmed by your business tasks? Well, it's time to step up your game. Visit www.spherocketva.com and get a virtual assistant from us at Sphere Rocket VA. Streamline your business operations and focus on what really matters.